The northern wind never stopped rattling the corrugated walls of Fort Grayson Air Base. Snow swirled in ghostly spirals across the empty tarmac, the kind of weather that grounded rookies, but made veterans nostalgic. Inside Hangar 6, the overhead lights hummed, casting long shadows over the rows of flight simulators and training consoles. Captain Elara Mason sat alone at the farthest terminal, her hands moving across the maintenance menu of an F-35 flight trainer. She wore the same thing she always did: faded gray coveralls, boots scuffed from years of tarmac work, and a navy blue cap pulled low over her short black hair. On her wrist was a battered watch with a cracked crystal, the only thing she had kept from her combat days. Most people on base knew her as Mason from training. They assumed she was a systems tech who happened to be good at troubleshooting rookie mistakes. She never corrected them. She wasn't on the pilot roster, she didn't attend tactical briefings, and she certainly didn't swap war stories in the mess hall like a loud crowd from Bravo Squadron. Elara kept her voice low, her profile lower, and her private life non-existent. Even her small on-base apartment was bare. One cot, one desk, one steel locker. No pictures on the wall, no trophies. Just a locked footlocker under the bed, never opened. "Hey, Mason," called Sergeant Doyle, sticking his head in from the hangar door. "You got time to check Sim Station 4? Rookie says it's bugged." Elara glanced at the clock. She still had an hour before the lunch crowd filled the mess. "I'll look," she said. She moved silently between rows, fixed the glitch in under 3 minutes, and slipped away before the rookie could thank her. That was how she preferred it. Be useful, be gone. She had lived that way for 8 years. 8 years since Falcon 9 disappeared from the skies. It started like any other Thursday drill. The control tower was running a northern defense exercise, simulating hostile aircraft crossing into Arctic airspace. The radar screens lit up with ghost contacts, scripted enemies for Bravo and Delta squadrons to intercept. A snowstorm rolled in from the north, making the whole thing feel like a scene from a Cold War movie. Elara sat in Hangar 6, sipping burnt coffee and reviewing a trainee's systems log, when the base PA system crackled unexpectedly. "Attention all personnel. Secure all com channels. This is not a drill." That phrase, "not a drill," froze the air in her lungs. Within minutes, the base turned into a hive of motion. Mechanics sprinted toward parked jets, flight crews scrambled into gear, and the control tower's clipped voices went from calm to urgent. Elara stayed at her station, eyes narrowed, listening. Through the hangar's open bay doors, she saw Colonel Arden storm across the tarmac toward the command building. A young lieutenant trailed behind, headset pressed to his ear. Then came the second announcement. "Electronic warfare attack confirmed. Satellite comms and GPS are compromised. All active squadrons report positions immediately." The timing was impossible. Bravo Squadron was already airborne for the drill. Delta Squadron was grounded for scheduled maintenance. And Alpha Squadron was on a refueling layover in Anchorage. That left no one. A ground crewman burst into Hangar 6, nearly tripping over a cable reel. "Mason, you hear what's going on?" he asked, panting. 2 unknown boogies just clipped into Alaskan airspace. Bravo's out there, but they've lost GPS. They're blind. Elara didn't answer right away. She stared past him toward the far end of the hangar, at the F-15EX prototype parked in shadow, half its panels open, an engine test still incomplete. No one but a handful of top-clearance pilots had ever sat in its cockpit. Her fingers curled around the edge of the console. She could feel her heartbeat sensing with the faint hum of the hangar lights. She knew what was about to happen, and she knew no one else could stop it. The control center's loudspeakers sputtered again, the voice sharp and tense. "Bravo Squadron reporting navigational loss. Multiple hostiles in visual range. Request immediate vectoring and backup. Repeat, The transmission cut in a burst of static. Across the hangar, a few techs exchanged nervous glances. One muttered, "They're dead in the water up there." Another shook his head. "There's no one to send. X1 isn't certified yet. Nobody here's got the clearance or the hours to fly her. Nobody except Elara." She stood slowly, tugging her cap lower. Her mind was already mapping a flight path by terrain memory. No GPS, no satellites, just instinct and the last weather data she'd checked that morning. "Hey, Mason," Sergeant Doyle called from behind a maintenance cart. "Where are you going?" "Panel inspection," she said without breaking stride. It was the truth, in a way. She walked straight to the F-15EX. Its matte gray skin gleamed under the hangar lights, the sharp lines of its nose like a predator at rest. Airman Sutter, who'd been logging engine data, looked up. Ma'am, X1's off limits." "She's—" "I know," Elara interrupted. She stepped onto the ladder, fingers moving toward the access keypad. The younger techs exchanged looks. Was she seriously about to try? "Captain Mason," a voice barked from the far end of the hangar. It was Major Crane, the base's operations officer. "You don't have clearance for that bird." Her hands didn't slow. She typed in a sequence so fast the keypad chirped twice before the major could reach her. The cockpit canopy hissed open. "Where'd you get that code?" Crane demanded, stunned. Elara glanced down at him, her face unreadable. 8 years ago. Haven't forgotten it. By the time he realized what that meant, she was sliding into the seat, flipping master switches with the ease of muscle memory. The HUD flickered to life in emerald green. "Control, this is Mason. Requesting emergency scramble authorization." There was a pause. Then Colonel Arden's voice, low and incredulous. "Mason Falcon 9? Her reply was calm, almost quiet. "Yes, sir. And your rookies have 6 minutes." The F-15EX's twin engines screamed to life, the sound reverberating through the hangar until it felt like the air itself was vibrating. Ground crew instinctively stepped back, shielding their faces from the heat blast. "Tower, this is Falcon 9. Alara's voice cut through the radio, sharp and steady. "Rolling for runway 22. Locking on manual nav." "Falcon 9, control here," Colonel Arden answered. "Bravo squadron's down to 2 functional birds. They've lost bearings, being shadowed by unknowns. Weather worsening." "Are you absolutely sure?" 6 minutes, she repeated, pushing the throttles forward. Snowflakes streaked sideways across the canopy as she taxied out. Her hands were steady on the stick, but her pulse quickened. The runway stretched ahead like a white scar under the dark Arctic sky. "Falcon 9, you are cleared for immediate takeoff." The afterburners roared, pressing her into the seat. The F-15EX surged forward, tires screaming on the icy surface before lifting clean into the air. For a brief moment, there was silence, only the thrum of the engines and the howl of wind over the fuselage. She climbed hard, banking northwest toward the last known coordinates of Bravo Squadron. Her flight computer flickered, GPS down, as expected, so she switched to terrain contour navigation, a skill that most modern pilots barely practiced. Static cracked in her headset, then a strained voice. "Falcon 9, this is Bravo lead. We've got visual on 2 boogies, range 15 miles. We can't shake them. Fuel's dropping." "Copy, Bravo lead. Hold heading 290. Keep them interested. I'll come in invisible." She skimmed along the edge of a frozen ridgeline, dropping low enough that the jagged ice formations blurred past the canopy. The old instincts came rushing back, reading the land, timing the climb, feeling the air density shift before her instruments told her. When she broke over the next ridge, she saw them. 2 dark silhouettes cutting through the storm, one tailing a limping Bravo fighter, the other weaving ahead like a wolf, pushing prey toward the kill. Her jaw tightened. Time to remind the sky I'm still here. The hostile aircraft were unfamiliar silhouettes, sharp, angular designs, smaller than standard interceptors, but fast, built for knife-fight range. Elara's mind ticked through recognition profiles, settling on a guess. Modified strike drones with remote human control. That meant fast reactions, no fear of loss, and predictable AI systems patterns she could exploit. She eased the throttle back, letting the wind buffet her craft until her radar cross-section blended with the jagged terrain below. The snowstorm became her camouflage. Bravo lead, Falcon 9. You've got 30 seconds. Keep that lead boogie focused on you. Copy, but we're one good hit from ejecting. Then don't let them hit you. Elara slid the F-15EX into a low, climbing spiral. An old-school maneuver called the Falcon hook, which used vertical space and blind angles to slip behind a target without them ever seeing the approach. Modern training barely mentioned it. Simulators didn't model it well, and rookies thought it was obsolete. From below the enemy's radar sweep, she climbed at a near-vertical pitch, rolled inverted, and came down like a blade. The targeting reticle snapped red over the trailing boogie. She squeezed the trigger. The M61 Vulcan cannon spat fire, tracer rounds stitching across the enemy's fuselage. The hostile burst into an expanding halo of flame, scattering debris into the white void below. "Splash one," she said, already breaking left. The second boogie's pilot must have realized something was wrong, because it veered off Bravo lead and went defensive. It didn't matter. Elara was already on its tail, pushing the EX-1 past its intended maneuver envelope, HUD warnings flashing amber. She armed a pair of IM-9 Sidewinders, felt the tone lock through her headset, and thumbed the release. 2 white streaks vanished into the storm. Seconds later, another bloom of fire. The comm line went silent, except for the crackle of the storm. Then Bravo lead's voice, awed and shaky. "Falcon 9, who the hell are you?" "Your lucky day," she replied, banking to escort them home. "Now let's get you on the ground before more company shows up." The snowstorm was breaking as the 3 jets cut through the gray dawn toward Fort Grayson. Elara kept her formation tight, watching Bravo's fuel indicators blink low on her secondary display. Every few seconds, she scanned the horizon for new contacts, but the sky remained empty. The base runway appeared through the haze, flares marking the landing path. Bravo lid touched down first, his fighter wobbling slightly on the icy surface. His wingman followed, wheels chirping on contact. Elara brought the F-15EX in last, the landing smooth as glass. When she rolled to a stop, she expected the usual: climb out, hand the bird back to the techs, walk away before anyone asked questions. But not this time. Half the base seemed to be waiting on the tarmac. Colonel Arden stood at the front, parka collar up against the wind, eyes fixed on her cockpit. As she killed the engines, the sudden silence felt louder than the afterburners. She unstrapped, swung her legs over the side, and dropped to the ground. "Captain Mason," Arden said, his voice even but heavy, "you just saved 2 of my pilots from being statistics. That was some of the finest flying I've seen since." He hesitated. Since Falcon 9 was still in the air. She met his gaze without flinching. "I told you. I haven't forgotten how." "You shouldn't be hiding in a simulator hangar," he said. "We could use you back in the roster." Full reinstatement. Lead status. Elara looked past him to the 2 rookies she'd saved. They were talking to medics, still in shock, but alive. She thought about the years she'd spent in self-imposed exile, the silence she'd learned to live with. "I'll keep flying," she said, "but not like before. Let me train them." Really train them. How to fly without the crutches. How to survive when the tech goes dark. Arden studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Deal." As the crowd dispersed, one of the rookies broke away and jogged toward her. "Ma'am," he said, breathless, We owe you. You owe me nothing, she interrupted. Be ready next time. That's all. She turned toward Hangar 6, the wind tugging at her cap, the hum of jet engines still in her bones. She would stay in the shadows. But now, the next time the sky went dark, she wouldn't be the only one ready to fly into it.